Jai Sri Krishna. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, the conversation between Nārada Muni and Vyāsadeva Goswami. Here in the verse 29, Sri Nārada Muni telling to Vyāsadeva Goswami that at the end of the millennium, when the personality of a Godhead, Lord Sri Narayana, lay down within the water of devastation, Brahma began to enter into him along with all creative elements, and I means Sri Narada Muni also entered through his breathing. So here it is mentioned Kalpata idam adhyayam Srayanam udanavata Sri Sriro Anupranam Vivisenartha Aham Hivaha. It means Sri Narada Muni. Here the purport is Narada is known as the son of Brahma, as Lord Krishna is known as the son of Vyāsadeva, the personality of Godhead, and his liberated devotees like Narada appears in the material world by the same process. As it is said in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the birth and the activities of the Lord are all transcendental. Therefore, according to authorized opinion, the birth of Narada as the son of Brahma is also a transcendental pastime. His appearance and disappearance are practically on the same level as that the Lord and his devotee they are therefore simultaneously one and different as a spiritual entities. They belong to the same category of a transcendence. So here in the next verse 30, after 43000000 solar years, when Brahma awoke to create again by the will of Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Vyāsadeva, Lord Sri Krishna, all the rishi like Marichi, Agira, Arthri, and so on were created from the transcendental body of the Lord. And I, Sri Narada Muni, also appeared along with them. So here it is mentioned Sahasra Yoge Prayante Uthayam Sri Sriyata Marichi Misra Srasaya Prasanneva Aham Cha Janire. It means the purport is the duration of a day in the life of Brahma is 4320000000 solar years. This is stated also in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So for this period, Brahmadi rest in the yoga nidra within the body of Garbhodasakai Vishnu, the generator of Brahma. Thus, after the sleeping period of Brahma, when there is again creation by the will of Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Vishnu, through the agency of Brahma, all the great rishis again appears from different part of the transcendental body, and Narada also appears. This means that Narada appears in the same transcendental body just as a man awake from sleeping in the same body. Sri Narada is eternally free to move in all part of the transcendental and material creation of the Almighty. He appears and disappears in his own transcendental body, which is without distinction of body and soul, unlike conditioned being. So here in the next verse 31, Sri Narada Muni telling to Vyāsadeva Goswami that since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, he traveled everywhere without restriction, both in the transcendental world and in the three divisions of a material world. This is because he was fixed in the unbroken devotional service of the Lord. So here it is mentioned अन्तरविशिष्य लोकं तृणां प्रियमे आच्छादितव्रतः अंगुरुः महावीर विष्णुर अभिघत घटित कविचित. It means here the purport is as stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. There was a three division of material spheres, namely the Urdhvaloka, topmost planet, Madhyaloka, midway planets, and Adhaloka, downward planets. Beyond the Urdhvaloka, that is to say above Brahmaloka, are the material covering of the universe, and above that is the spiritual sky, which is unlimited in expansion, containing unlimited self-illuminative Vaikuntha planet inhabited by Lord himself along with his associates, who are all eternally liberated living entities. Sri Narada Muni could enter all these planets in both of a material and spiritual sphere without restriction. As much as the Almighty Lord is free to move personally in any part of a creation, in the material world, the living beings are influenced by the three modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. But Sri Narada Muni is transcendental to all these material modes, and thus he can travel everywhere unrestricted. He is a liberated spaceman. The causeless mercy of Lord Vishnu is unparalleled, and such mercy is perceived by the devotee only by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, the devotee never fall down, but the materialistic, that the fruitive worker and the speculative philosophers do fall down, being forced by their respective mode of nature. The rishi, as above mentioned, cannot enter into the transcendental world like Narada. This fact is disclosed in Narsimha Purāṇa. Rishi like Marichi are authorized in fruitive work, and Rishi like Sanaka and Sanatana are authorized authorities in philosophical speculations. But Sri Narada Muni is the prime authority for transcendental devotional service of the Lord. All the great authorities in the devotional service of the Lord follow in footsteps of Narada Muni in order of Narada Bhakti Sutra, and therefore all the devotees of the Lord are unhesitatingly qualified to enter into the kingdom of God Vaikuntha. So here in the next verse again, Sri Narada Muni telling to Vyāsadeva Goswami that thus I travel. Thus Sri Narada Muni travel constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called as a Bina, which is charged with a transcendental sound and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. So here it is mentioned, Devo datam imam bhinam swarvam swar brahma vibhushitam Murchiyova Harikartha Gayamana Shorasmaham. It means the purport is the musical stringed instrument called the Veena, which was hanged to Narada by Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Linga Purana, and this is confirmed by Sarila Jiva Goswami. This transcendental instrument is identical with Lord Sri Krishna and Narada because all of them are the same transcendental category. Sound vibrated by the instrument cannot be material, and therefore the glories and pastime which are broadcast by the instrument of Narada are also transcendental. Without a tinge of material inebriety, the seven singing matter, namely Saw, Sajja, Ra, Rasabha, Ga, Gandhara, Ma, Madhyama, Pa, Panchama, Dha, Dhaivata, and Nisada are also transcendental and specifically meant for transcendental songs. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Sri Narada Deva is always fulfilling his obligation to the Lord for his gift of an instrument, and thus he is always engaged in singing his transcendental glories and is therefore infallible in his exalted position. Following the footstep of Sarila Narada Muni, a self-realized soul in the material world should also properly use the sound matters, namely sa, ra, ga, ma, etc., in the service of the Lord by constantly singing the glories of the Lord, as in confirmed Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Here in this verse, it is also mentioned Saragama insight is coming from the Narada Muni, Narada Muni musical string instrument which is called as Veena. So here in the next verse, Sri Narada Muni again telling to Vyāsadeva Goswami that the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories and activities are preaching to hear, all at once appears on the seat of my heart as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. So here it is mentioned प्रज्ञायतः सर्ववीर्ययने तृतीयवतः प्रिय सर्वः आहूत एव मे श्रीक्रमम् darshanam yati chetasim. It means here the purport is the absolute personality of a Godhead is not different from his transcendental name, fame, name, form, pastime, and the sound vibration thereof. As soon as a pure devotee engaged himself in pure devotional service of hearing, chanting, and remembering the name, fame, and activities of the Lord, at once he becomes visible to the transcendental eyes of the pure devotee by reflecting himself on the mirror of the heart by spiritual televisions. Therefore, a pure devotee who is related with the Lord in a loving transcendental service can experience the presence of the Lord at every moment. It is a natural psychology in every individual case that a person like to hear and enjoy his personal glory enumerated by other. That is a natural instinct, and the Lord, being also an individual personality like others, is not an exception to the psychology, because psychological characters visible in the individual soul are but reflection of the same psychology in the absolute Lord. The only difference is that the Lord is the greatest personality of all the absolutes uh, in all his affairs. If, therefore, the Lord is attracted by the pure devotee chanting of his glories, there is nothing astonishing, since he is absolute. He can appear himself in the picture of his glorification. The two things being identical. Sarila Narada chants the glorification of the Lord not for his personal benefit, but because the glorification are identical with the Lord. Sri Narada Muni penetrates into the presence of the Lord by the transcendental chanting. Jai Jagannath, Jai Sri Krishna.